When you're a founder, you're going to take a lot of feedback from different people who have a lot of different ideas about what you should be doing. If you don't talk to people a lot, you might not be something you're getting right now. But as soon as you start going out there and doing it, you're going to hear from people. People are going to be telling you, I think you should be focusing on this area, or this is the kind of business you should be going after, or they don't like your branding or your messaging or something like that. They don't think it's going to work. And someone asked me recently, they gave me feedback, and then they said, this probably gets kind of annoying for you, right? Like hearing all this stuff all the time. And I don't think annoying is the right word for it. So what is it like? Well, feedback is sometimes helpful because it shows you something new. You might actually, if you're open to it, hear something that you haven't heard before. And so you always have to sort of suspend disbelief initially when someone is giving you an idea and think, well, what are the merits of the idea that they're talking about? Even if it's something similar to what you've heard before, there's always an opportunity to explore it further and could kind of see what they're thinking. Sometimes it's just another data point. Sometimes it's something you've heard before and it's being reiterated. That allows you, like I said, to explore that even further and try to get to the motivations of why they think that's a good idea and learn the language of what they're talking about. That kind of falls into the area of customer development. See what kind of words people are using so that if you're building it or you're crafting your pitch, you can start to adopt the words that they use as opposed to the words that you think that they would use when you're pitching. Sometimes it's frustrating, but it's frustrating because you know that you should be doing something. Like if someone's giving you this advice from the outside, like you guys should really focus on this. I think it's a big opportunity or market you're missing out on. And you know you should be focusing on that thing. And for whatever reason, it isn't a priority right now, or it's just something you can't do, or it's something you've been trying to do but you've been failing at. And everything in your head is saying you don't understand how hard this is. You don't understand the things that are getting in the way of that. But it's not really your role in that moment to try to convince them that their idea is a bad idea and that you can't do it. They don't care, first of all. But they're not necessarily going to be able to help out there. And, maybe they're right. So talking to people is an essential part of your job, and getting feedback is going to be an essential part of your job. You're talking to employees, you're talking to customers, you're talking to investors. If they care at all about your business, they're going to want to get involved and give you feedback and give you suggestions. People think that that's the way that they can help the most. And in fact, maybe it is. So I think it's important to consider that when someone is giving you feedback, what it means is that they really care, and they care about your success, and they care about you improving, and maybe they're not delivering it in the best way for you at that moment. And that's where it's your job to kind of probe a little further, or to pull the value out of what they're saying, or to kind of just listen. I think listening is an invaluable skill that you can develop. And instead of hearing something and feeling a certain kind of emotional response to it, to just be open and hear what they have to say and say thank you for sharing that. As opposed to saying, here's why we can't do that, or here's why that won't work, and getting combative and competitive there, because that's what's going to lead you, if you do that, towards starting to hate those conversations and hate the feedback that you're getting. So what about when people tell you your idea sucks? Like, how do you deal with that? I think in a lot of these cases you don't. You thank them for their feedback and you move on. The hard part is knowing what to do with people's feedback. And the only thing that I could say there is you wait. And you start to develop a sense of pattern recognition, hopefully. The more conversations you have with people, the more patterns start to emerge. And if you hear the same kind of stuff over and over, it might start to generate an idea in your head about what you want to try, what you might not want to try, what is in people's minds. It doesn't mean you have to listen to them. And in most cases, I sort of thank people and move on. But sometimes I find after the fact that something someone said has stuck in my mind a little bit, right? There's the famous quote, of course, by Henry Ford that said, if I had asked people what they wanted, they would have said a faster horse. And so if you have a bunch of people telling you we need faster horses, doesn't mean you have to listen to them. You might know that you're going to build a car, right? But I'm sure people were telling them all the time, what's the point of what you're building? And maybe some of them had really good insight. So I would highly caution you to do two things. One is be aware of your own emotional response and reaction when you're getting feedback from people. Are you getting upset? Are you getting frustrated? Are you getting excited? All of these things are okay. They're very natural, and it's a very hard thing to avoid, and you don't want to block it out. You want to have these authentic conversations with people where you have the opportunity to listen and to incorporate things that they're telling you. And you don't want to let the emotions blind you to the reality and make you do something that you maybe shouldn't be doing, whether that's getting super excited and jumping into one area. Give yourself a little bit of time to just sit with the feedback that you're hearing. And the second thing I would caution you to realize is that one data point is not enough. And you shouldn't just hear what one person says and just assume you have to change everything. It really is the accumulation of lots of conversations and a lot of feedback over time. Talking to 20 people, 30 people, 50 people, it could be more than you expect. And so you have to be somewhat emotionally resilient in order to have those conversations and to not let them get you down and to not take too much from any one conversation or any one bit of feedback. You have to develop a bit of a thick skin. And I remember we did the Y Combinator interview, and it sort of proposed how we were planning on growing. And one of the partners criticized the idea and said, like, I don't think that's going to work. What about this other option? And my immediate response was like, no, that's stupid. My plan is going to work. I know it's going to work. I've thought about it. But they're looking for people who are somewhat flexible and who actually can listen to people and to potentially change their mind and incorporate bits of other people's ideas. So my response was, first of all, I think that's interesting. Tell me more. To probe a little bit deeper, to get to maybe the core of what they're talking about, and then to say, I want to thank you for sharing that, and I'm definitely going to consider it. And that doesn't mean that you're committing to actually making the change and to incorporating it, but at least they feel listened to. This is especially true for working with people on your team, working with investors as well. They don't want to feel like you're totally blocked off and stubborn and unwilling to listen. So yeah, that's a little bit of thoughts on taking feedback. Another final thing I wanted to talk about, which is the 1 month startup competition that actually just ended. So for those of you guys who've been following, we ran 1 month startup as a pilot master course last month. It just ended. We had 100 students go through building their own startups from idea to product to website to launch. We had tremendous number of students doing kind of incredible things. And we actually picked 3 winners at the end of this. There were 2 runner-ups and one startup that we awarded a $10,000 cash prize to. And that one was Less Analytics. And what Less Analytics does is basically like data aggregation AI tool that works over email. It connects all your different data services and it tells you the information that you really need to know on a weekly basis. They're also working on a Slack integration so you can get all of your data inside of Slack, which is something that I think is really needed and we'd be very excited about. They're a team based out of Atlanta, Georgia, amazing team where when they started, they had no idea what the company was called. They had this vague idea that they wanted to do something in data, and what they've got now is a great website. They've got users. They've got an actual Python web application built for the product. They've got press, and they are on the road to building a viable startup, which is really tremendous. I also want to give a shout out to Team and Simplicity Engine, the 2 runners up. team helping with hiring of technical developers and pre-qualification and figuring out cultural fit. It's a very tough problem to solve, and it's a great team working on that product. And Simplicity Engine, honestly, one of the sleekest tools I've ever seen to help build out your back end of your website as a service. So all 1 month startup alumni, all 1 month founders, and I'm very, very excited to see where they've come so far and where they will continue to go. So check out their information below if you want to explore them further. And again, congratulations everyone in this entire process. It's been awesome.